Okay, everyone. Good evening from Alaska. This is Dr. Gullett speaking to all of you. Good morning to you, good day, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's great to see some of you actually here in the attendee list. Great to see some of you again from some of our Women's Leadership Program courses. That's wonderful. And of course, it's great to see everyone else as well. Now, before I get started, I just want to talk through a few housekeeping items. Before we continue, could you find the green ticker or the green check mark and just let me know that I'm audible? I just want to make sure you're able to hear me. So if you can click on the green ticker to the right side of your screen, or the green check mark, that would be wonderful. You'll see to the right side of your screen participants, you'll see a whole bunch of names, and then a hand and a ticker, a green ticker. I just want to be sure that you are all able to hear me. Okay, I see some of you gave me a green ticker, some of you did not. I'm hoping that just means you are not able to find the ticker or the check mark, the green check mark. If you can still give me a green check mark whenever you're able, that would be great, just so I have confirmation you're able to hear me. Let's see. Okay, I see that there are a few more who gave me green check marks. Now, another thing, while you found the green check mark, to the left of that is the hand, the raise hand portion. We will use that later on towards at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, that is the icon you will use, and I'll get back to that again a bit later. And now, another thing is, after we will wait for comments and questions that I will take at the end of the webinar. So I will go and give you my talk, and then at the end, I invite you to make any comments or add any questions you may have at that time. And just another bit of information, I'm not streaming my video just because I've experienced if I stream videos, and some of you as well, my audio gets lost, and sometimes folks, including myself, will fall off the call. So I don't want to have that happen. So I'm not going to video stream, but I have this great picture of myself, so you know what I look like, and some of you know what I look like already. Anyway, with no further ado, and being mindful of the time, let's get going on our topic tonight, in which I will talk to you about the confidence gap in women. So is it fact or fiction? It's always a topic that that's out there, that is being discussed, sometimes a little silent, I want to say, almost. And what has not been very silent is the fact that there's a cliche out there that actually says that women lack confidence at work. You know, women who lack confidence continuously worry about having to act like someone else, versus compared to men who appear to think they are better in their work than they actually are. And those guys, they tend to be overconfident. So what that does, it actually leads us to this phenomenon called imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome has been in discussion in some of the research, and of course you wonder, okay, what is it? An imposter? What is that about? And really, what it's about, if I quote, surely there are many definitions of imposter syndrome, but if I just quote one from Wikipedia, let's say, it says that it's a psychological phenomenon in which people are unable to internalize their accomplishments. Despite external evidence of their competence, those with the syndrome remain convinced that they are frauds and do not deserve the success they have achieved. So, in other words, there is an internal fear present that someone is found to be incompetent. And so the question is that gets raised, amongst women is, do you ever feel like you behave or act like someone else at work? Do you ever pretend to act like someone else? And a part of that, if you about the imposter syndrome, I know that some of us in some of the webinars I've held, I've mentioned that some of the women may think they need to take on male traits, male leadership traits, for example. That's part of being an imposter, or having that imposter syndrome, and psychologically experiencing that, and sometimes not knowingly. The question really becomes, do women or men experience more of the imposter syndrome, or is it a stereotype, perhaps? Is a woman's success because of luck or being at the right place at the right time, versus her actually having the capability to perform and basically performing? Do you have to be somebody else versus just being who you are and showing your capability and perform in that way? So let's look at more of this. Because then the question becomes, why do more women than men feel this way? And that's what the literature suggests, that that women are have more of that feeling in terms of having to be someone else than men. And this may be because of biological differences in the brain, for example. Brain makeup between men and women is different. Men have more gray matter, which is the typical, it's really the analytical part of the brain. Women have more white matter. And that's the part that connects the countless streams of information that are going on all the time. And then, of course, if we talk about biology, then there's this thing called hormones. Estrogen typically is the hormone that supports the brain, that involves social skills, observations, and has its inspiration on bonding and connections, and really discourages risk-taking or any type of conflict. Versus the testosterone is the hormone that actually helps energize male confidence. And it's the hormone that encourages winning, demonstrating power, and risk-taking. So on a side note of that, the drawback of high levels of testosterone is overconfidence and aggressive behavior. And of course, as some of us may have experienced being out there with our fellow human beings, both of them may have fatal risks. Testosterone-driven decisions aren't necessarily the better ones, and we need to remember that. So then we could ask ourselves, do women need more testosterone? Not really, ladies. A study suggests, actually, that women who were given more testosterone declined in their ability to be collaborative and were wrong more frequently. So it's not a good idea to go out and get shots of testosterone. That is not the answer to become more confident. Why do women feel more as an imposter or less confident? Well, women negotiate less. Overall, research says that women appear that they do not want to engage in negotiation frequently or not at all. And a good example of this is, for example, women negotiating for salaries. Women negotiate lower salaries. They usually negotiate 30% lower salaries than men do. And I mean, there's a lot more to say about this. This could be and maybe in the future a whole nother webinar in regards to how women negotiate. I will actually do that. It is on my list to do, because I'm telling you, there is some truth to that, and I speak from my own experience. Now, the other element that may play a part here of why women feel more of an imposter syndrome or have low confidence is the upbringing and how we are raised. If you think about it, of course, I know, there's always the aspect of culture, and I will point out, or I will mention that more towards the end of the webinar. But let's just say in general, boys are told it's okay to make mistakes, versus the girls, she's always got to be the good girl, the perfect little girl who doesn't make mistakes. And really what that does, it creates hurdles for women in the future, you know, because it may just be tied to the level of confidence in women. And surprisingly, research shows that girls in their teenage years seem to drop out of competitive sports when they experience failure or they mess up, which is really a sad thing because it's that mess up that will actually teach you confidence. And then, of course, we have the nature of play, which is you know, it's the same thing. And again, you know, culturally it may be different in some of the countries around the globe. Girls are rewarded for being good, you know, instead of rambunctious or energetic. You always have to look nice, you have to be nice. Girls get praised for being perfect, and they socialize more easily. Girls really, through that, learn, they learn to avoid to take risks and making mistakes. They're encouraged to be passive. Boys, on the other hand, receive more reprimand and punishments, which therefore allows them to learn how to deal with failure, actually. And in boys, failure is about lack of effort, versus in girls, it's much deeper and really nudges on their inner qualities. I mean, if you really think about that, you know, of course, some of you ladies, including myself, will know girls that have more, and we know that even as adults, and when we look at, you know, when we look at personality types or leadership characteristics and traits, of course you will have, some of you may say, hey, I have more of the male type of trait. Absolutely possible. This is just, in terms of the nature of play, is how have things been in the past, and are they still like that today? I think it's changing a bit, and we'll talk about that a little later. And then, of course, you know, there's the societal stereotyping. That always plays a big part in all of this, and add culture to that, and boy, you really get things going. Now, let me just switch the slide here. I do want to point out, though, and this is also, you know, from our own observations and experience, and just reading a lot about this stuff, is that male members do suffer similar issues. So there are similarities here, possibly, right? The difference is between men and women is that men appear to be more skilled at hiding their insecurities, because this is the other thing. You see, again, you have this societal thing called stereotype, and you know, how men are nurtured and all of that, boys, because society says you have to man up, right? Then the other thing I want to point out here is the interesting thing about, about the woman who has the imposter syndrome. There are certain characteristics and traits, and they are tenacity, competitive nature, a driven leadership, and that's really spurred on by that self-doubt, that imposter, that the woman who has that psychological imposter syndrome. It's really these type of traits actually become very similar to male leadership traits. It's a phenomenon all in itself. And the other thing is that, you know, what has to be remembered, and also for the male member, is that having skills for a given job doesn't translate into feeling confident. In fact, I really believe this holds true for both men and women. So, you know, there's something to be said about that in terms of where is that imposter syndrome, and how do men and women deal with it. Now, what's important in all of this, ladies, is that women outscore men. They do. Research into gender differences among executives has actually shown that women generally outscore men on 3 out of 4 measures used to single out high potential business leaders, ladies. So it is there. However, there's one difference: confidence. Confidence is the element, is the thing that women do not outscore men on at all. So I really want to tell you that we need to stop behaving the way societal stereotyping dictates. I find in my research that societal stereotyping has a lot to do with, it has an incredible amount of psychological power. You know, I mean, we're being told what to do, how to be, how to behave. And of course, I will tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, no one's telling me how to behave. Of course not. Psychologically, the psychological aspect is very powerful, and it's very silent sometimes and very quiet and very underlying, because it's been like that, you know. But has it been like that always? Does it mean it has to continue? The bottom line is, you know, my question is, when will we create new stories for ourselves? It really goes back to the beginning, you know, it goes back to the beginning of time. You know, if you look at history and what women have done and accomplished, and really in collaboration with their male members, that's what really is important. That there, once upon a time, I really believe, was an equality, actually. Now, looking at confidence, you know, there is a crisis of confidence, and do some women suffer confidence crises? I believe they do. You know, not every woman does, but I believe that this is an issue, and I believe it is an issue that does make itself present when it comes to climbing the career ladder. Because if you look at research, you know, the research shows that really a vital element holding women back from executive senior positions is the lack of confidence. I mean, that is just what the research shows. It's factual. You know, women think they have to be perfect. There was actually a study conducted by Hewlett-Packard that shows that women would only apply for a promotion if they met 100% of the job criteria or job requirements, compared to men who applied for promotions, although they only met 60% of the job criteria. And the men felt that they will just learn the rest while they're actually on the job after being promoted. So you see, there's again that perfectionism, you know. And as you will see, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to be perfect. It's okay. Another study was conducted by Columbia University that showed that women consistently underestimated their abilities compared to men who regularly overestimated their abilities by 30%. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. It's just a lot. Now, one thing I do want to tell you here on that note is that there's some conflicting research. Let's just say this research that was done in Switzerland. Swiss researchers, actually, not in Switzerland, but Swiss researchers conducted a study where the participants, it was a longitudinal study, and the participants were men and women, young adults between ages 14 to 30. Now, this study was not particularly conducted with a focus on confidence, but on self-esteem. And there are some correlations and interconnections between self-esteem and confidence, indeed, which is why I wanted to mention it here, because actually what they found is that, contrary to the cliché belief, there is really no significant difference in a woman and a man's self-esteem. And this was a longitudinal study between women and men ages 14 to 13, so adolescence into young adulthood. So we may see a shift here, you know. Again, there may be shifts happening as we speak. Now, the important thing for us now is to look at, well, so what feeds the lack of confidence? I mean, you know, is it something, I mean, what feeds the lack of confidence and therefore the promotion to executive positions, or just simply career advancement, or simply just getting into the career that women want? And I can tell you that research shows that it's internal criticisms. You know, women are really good, I would say we're really good of not letting go, but we need to let go. You know, let things roll off our shoulders and don't hang on to internal criticism. Criticism as a whole doesn't boost women's confidence at all. And I'm talking about your own internal criticism. Another aspect of lack of confidence is that feeds lack of confidence is that women do tend to overthink and overanalyze. You know, women beat themselves up. Men have self-doubts too, but they don't beat themselves up about it. But women do overanalyze, overthink, and I can tell you, I used to be like that much more so than I am today. And so I guess maybe we do wise up with age. One would hope. Another lack feeder is, you know, credit the circumstances for the woman's success. Women credit circumstances. You know, the typical, are we just in the right place at the right time, you know, or are we actually or even capable, you know. The next one is luck versus hard work or talent. Oh, I was just lucky to get this, you know. Oh, I was just at the right place at the right time. I will tell you, I'm guilty of saying that as well. You know, we have women self-doubt in their abilities. They underestimate their abilities. We do underestimate our abilities. I have done this in the past, and it's not it's a lack of confidence feeder. You know, perfectionism. I've mentioned this before. Women tend to strive for perfection. Women think they have to be perfect, and I again can tell you from my own experience, just me as a person, I used to be totally the perfectionist. Oh boy, I tell you, it was awful. It stressed me out to the rim, and maybe with age again, it's not that way anymore, or at least to that extreme. My husband even tells me that as well, so I guess that's a good thing coming from him. You know, women tend to not leave any room for mistakes or failures because we have to be perfect, right? What's sad about this, I mean, and I have observed people do this, is that that not people but women, peers, colleagues in various roles, that they don't allow for there to be growth. You know, some of the women don't see how they can grow from making mistakes and failing at something. It's totally okay to do that. I mean, especially, you know, if you think about your mom and what do you tell your child when the child makes a mistake on a test, you know, there's always another chance. And what do you learn from that? Hey, let's review. Do we understand this? You know, there's learning. I mean, we're all here to learn all the time. But for some reason, we just want to be perfect. Another feeder is that women let their nervous tensions get in the way of acting. And if you can see here, what I'm telling you is all these things so very much interconnected. You know, I mean, we see it here, and I'm sure some of you may go, oh, yes, that's right, aha. It's stuff that really we don't think about every day because it's just, in a way, almost simple, but we don't think about it. When we're nervous and anxieties are high, we don't act the way we would if we were confident. You know, tensions and anxiety will hamper your confidence, and it will affect how you behave. And a good example of this is when we get nervous in a meeting, you know, raising a hand during a business meeting or standing up and disagreeing with a colleague. That's a big one. I mean, I've been in organizations and in consulting, and people just don't want to say anything and ruff feathers. And I'm here to tell you that sometimes you need to ruff the feathers because it's important for the business, for micro and macro organizations and yourself, you know. Another feeder of lack of confidence is blaming the self. When mistakes are made or things go wrong, women tend to blame themselves for it. It's not a good thing to do, and you shouldn't do it. Crediting others for her success is another one. Really think about that. You know, even if you have a mentor, you get promoted, You're the one who got the promotion, not your mentor. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't be thankful to a mentor, but you are the one who deserves the credit. I'm sure that makes sense to you, I hope. Another, lack of confidence feeder, of course, is a negative attitude. And I have seen this a lot, unfortunately. I won't get a great job anyway, so why even apply and try? And I always tell people, you should never rule yourself out of anything. Let the company rule you out. Let someone else rule you out, but you're certainly going to be your biggest fan. Another feeder is not trying at all. I mean, women don't try. Actually, there's a study that showed that although women were as able as men, they didn't even try to take a test for a promotion at all. It wasn't about their ability to actually do well. It was just about that they didn't even go for it. They didn't even want to try, And the thing is that you should always try. I think that's really important. I think you should never not try, Of course, you have to want to. I would hope you do. And then the last one I want to mention that is a feeder of lack in confidence is women have a tendency to focus on others. Women focus on everyone else but themselves. And this may very well be related or innately related, and it may be something innate to women and tied to biology. Because if you look at all these traits when leadership styles are discussed, there's the nurturing women and all of that. And I think that sometimes we forget about to focus on ourselves. We focus on everyone else, and we put ourselves last. And I'm not saying that, you should be completely shrewd and egoistical about things. Is that a healthy thing? No, but there's a good balance to keep here. I think it's important what you want to keep in mind. And I want to give you an example. I was thinking about, okay, what example? I mean, there are a lot of great women out there, and some of some of these women are maybe even right here in this webinar in our midst who may have examples and stories to share, and I'm hoping that you will do that as a network, a supporting network on our Women's Leadership LinkedIn page, over the next weeks to come. That would be wonderful. But an example I wanted to point out here or share with you is, Virginia Rometty. She is the first female CEO of IBM Corp. And what was really interesting reading about her is that she also ruled herself out of that job. Because earlier in her career, she actually thought, when she was approached by a recruiter for this job, she actually thought that she didn't have enough experience and that she needed more time to think about that big type of job. And really what it taught her is that, you have to be very confident, even though you're self-critical, of not knowing it all. It's that leadership trait of risk-taking that you have to deploy here, and believe that you are capable and you have the ability, and that you'll just learn as you are on the job. And that is a fact. Because if you think about it, ladies, no matter which job you have taken in your past, whether it was straight out of college, whether it was switching a company, making a lateral move, it doesn't matter. There's always a learning curve, ladies, and you all know that, and I know that. But some of the women out there just think that they need to be perfect and they have to check mark off every one of these job criteria to actually take the job. And the thing is that she's actually known for her leadership characteristics, if you want to call them that, is that she has the ability to blend enthusiasm. which I think is really profound. The ability to blend enthusiasm. I love that. I love that it just doesn't say innovator, or motivator. The ability to blend enthusiasm. She has charisma. She's very clear in her communications. She's a strategic thinker, and she's a cool-minded decision maker, and I love that too. I really love that. That's one of the reasons why I picked her. And in all of this, I want to tell you, when she actually, after she was approached by the recruiter, and she told the recruiter that she didn't think she had enough experience and she needed more time to think about the job, when she told her husband that, her husband said, how do you think a man would have replied to the question, hey, do you want to be the next CEO of IBM? So sometimes it may be a good idea to think about what would a man say? What would a man do? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it would be a good thing, because after all, we don't want to have more testosterone than we already have. But it may just be a good idea to actually think about, well, what would my husband say, or my brother, or my father, or my buddy, colleague, my peer? I don't know. I think that may be a good way to actually think about confidence. And to sum it up, when it comes to Virginia, she feels that self-confidence is a key element in terms of being dynamic and energetic, handling and managing and coping. And it's completely tied to behavior displayed. And really, if you think about it, in essence, it's absolutely critical to executive success, because it is tied to your psychology and your behavior. It's a mind changer. It is a mind changer, ladies. It is a behavior changer, and it's critical to your success. So, having said that, I feel I'm really big on great sayings, and I felt that it was important to bring this in. Self-confidence is an attractive quality. It's the most attractive quality a person can have. How can anyone see how great you are if you can't see it yourself? I think that's so important. It's important for every human being, I think. It's something we can share with our children, whether male or female. And I think it's important that we all remain calm and that we take control. I love this slide. I just really like this image. It really spoke to me, and I hope it speaks to you too. I know that they're out there in all shapes and forms, but you know what you know, and you know that you know. You know you have the ability and that you are indeed competent. And that's where you need to take control of your confidence. I think that's absolutely crucial. We cannot forget that. Remain calm. Don't get anxious, but take control, because you know. And this is another important one. I really am very fond of some of the things Eleanor Roosevelt has done in her lifetime. And one of them is that, remember, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. You have to remember that, because that is a fact. And we forget that fact all the time. I'm guilty of that too. And I think it's important to remember that, because it's a confidence builder, really. Now, the big question is, of course, how do you take control of your career confidence? And ladies, I have to tell you, and we all know it, you have to start with yourself. You have to start with yourself first. And how else can you take control of your career confidence? Well, you can start by seeking challenging situations. Put yourself in situations that actually force you to overcome and confront your anxieties, your nervous tensions. I'm telling you, if you do that, it's amazing what happens. I remember the very first time I had to give a presentation in front of a really, really big audience. And I was so nervous. I thought I had forgotten everything I wanted to say, even though I had my little cheat sheet notes. It was awful. I'm sure some of you will know how 1 minute can seem like 5 minutes, how you think that everyone can see your left or right eye twitch because you're super nervous. how all of a sudden you think in your head your voice is changing and you said something that you really didn't want to say, and really in fact that didn't even happen. So many times people would tell me afterwards, I cannot believe how calm you are, speaking in front of all these people, and you know, and to me it appeared completely different. So you know what I'm saying, I'm sure you do, and I'm sure you can think of moments where it was just like that. But the thing is, still seek out those challenges. You will grow, which is growing by taking on some of, you know, grow is a big thing. Growing is important, I think, for every individual, regardless of male or female. You know, I think it's okay to grow actually by perhaps taking on some male leadership qualities. And not just male, they may not even have to be male leadership qualities. You know, sometimes I don't even like it that there are so many that sure research says that women and men are different in their traits, but I can also tell you, I've talked to some of you about leadership traits between men and women, and I can tell you that my observations and experience have been that there are a lot of similarities. So let me just say, I don't want to just focus on male leadership qualities. I'm just saying leadership qualities in general, because diversity is what it's all about. And then I want to tell you is go ahead and don't be perfect all the time. You know, make mistakes. It's okay not to be perfect all the time. Failure is okay because you have to remember you learn and grow from it. That is what you can pass on. It's so important. It's important because we can pass it on. We can pass it on to young girls and young women, supporting young girls and young women, college years young women, you know, that it is okay to mess up. You know, whether they're in competitive sports or they are you know, they play an orchestra or they do a spelling bee or whatever it is in your cultural area that typically is done, you know, tell them that they should keep at it. It's a great way to build confidence towards accomplishments for the future. And of course, you know, change thinking, change acting. That's what it is. It's in your head. You change your thinking, you will change your acting. You know, you help each other change the way we think, because this will change how your brain is actually wired, and it will affect your actions. You know, you want to ask yourself, how would a man handle this? I mentioned this before when we talked about Virginia Rometty. You know, how would a man answer this question of, do you want this big job, for example? You know, I mean, why not? There's nothing wrong with that. You know, how would a man handle this? How would a man reply to that situation, or how would he handle this situation? It's okay. I wouldn't put it past men that they actually think quite fondly of some of you and other female colleagues, and think fondly of how you handle situations or how you make decisions. I'm sure that they think, well, how would she do this? Why wouldn't they? They would be foolish not to. Now, another one is don't stop to hope or wait for permission. You don't need permission. Don't wait for someone to ask for your opinion on, for example, how to solve a problem. Just give your opinion. You know, and again, you know, we know how to communicate. We know how to be respectful. We know how to be diplomatic. Go for it. Be visible. Be visible. Have a voice. You know, and there's more. How do you take control of your career confidence? Well, and this may hit home to many of you, and some of you may feel, oh, well, why that? You know, stop apologizing for family responsibilities. And let me say this, I'm not speaking to you, I'm just saying that this has come up in all my readings that I've done, is that women tend to apologize because of family responsibilities. The fact of the matter is that family responsibilities are just as important as your career accomplishments. And family is a reality that doesn't make one less competent. That is the important thing here in this message. You know, just because we have families doesn't mean that we are less competent. And that is the important message that needs to come across. So don't apologize for having family responsibilities. If anything, it makes you more competent, just because think about all the CEO responsibilities you have when you run your family. Another one is, ask for help. That's it right there. Just ask for help. If you need help, ask for help. Make connections. Make connections. And, and here I want to say, I know that, I sometimes want to call it the fad of networking. You're networking here and social there and this and that and all the social networks. I'm not saying that they're not good. They're indeed great. And since we've had the internet and the web and all of that, it's just been fantastic, right? And definitely it has. Now, when I say make connections, make meaningful connections. I mean, think about the connections you make. I'm not going to connect with someone just to connect with them. Okay? I mean, I really... and there's a difference even in the Women's Leadership Program. We talk about actually networking and the differences between men and women and how we network. And I want to say that there's something about women, actually, the way they network and the way they make connections are on a much deeper level. It's not just because I want another business card that I then put in my overstocked business card box. Okay, it's got to make sense. So that's a good thing. Another key to take control of your career confidence is show that you learn from failures, because mistakes are okay and it's okay to not be perfect. It's an important trait to have, to show that you learn from failures, especially as a leader, as an authentic leader, someone with charisma. It's okay. You're not perfect, and that's completely fine. I think it will give you a lot of followers, actually. Don't let anxiety translate into security. Don't let it take over. You have to think about your abilities and that you can learn on the job even after you've taken the promotion, even after you did not meet 100% of the job criteria. It's okay. You know that you know. Have a positive mindset, because the key here is everyone deserves a seat at the table, women included. And another one I really like is act as if you got the job. Don't wait until you have that perfect confident feeling or thought, actually, because if you think and act as if, your behavior, feelings, and ultimately your actions will change, and that's what's important. You have to connect all of that. It's all interconnected. So don't wait for that perfect confident feeling. Just have that, quick second of thinking as if you had the job. Oh my gosh, and then see what happens. It's pretty amazing, actually. Very powerful. And hey, try and take action. Empower yourself to be confident. Ladies, that's really what it's about. You have to try. You have to take action. You have to empower yourself to be confident. It's really important that you do that, and we forget it. I'm telling you, I'm with you. Now, in all of that, there are more questions. There are always more questions. I mean, that's what I love about research, is that there's always more questions. And, we are around the globe. The fascinating thing is that, in all my readings and some of the women I talk to, is that we have so much in common, even though we come from different cultures. That is the phenomenon that really amazes me the most, and I find it very powerful, actually, and what could come out of that. And of course, some of the questions that come to mind for me is that one just has to ask, what do women self-predict when it comes to achieving tasks? I just wonder about that, while here's the thing, while self-esteem, it may be linked to confidence. The self-assessment about someone's self-esteem may bring different data results if researched, because the variables maybe differ as well. So, if you haven't embarked on a research project, when it comes to research, even in academia or in business as a whole, just research as a whole, it just always depends on so many different variables in terms of how the outcomes how the data will play itself out. You know, so just on a side note, we have to keep in mind really what the researcher is trying to prove, you know, and that may sway the study all in itself, and certainly the interpretation of the data. I think that, you know, we have to think about that some of the research I talked about earlier, the Swiss researchers found that there is no difference in levels of self-esteem in younger people today. You know, so a step further would be to conduct that same study with the same participants and measure the level of confidence and comparing and contrasting the findings. So that's something I'm kind of interested in, to see if it shows similarities. But there are other questions. You know, for example, what are the preconceived notions about women's own ability related to their confidence for women in other cultures and countries? You know, what's the societal impact there, and what are the other key variables of influence? And again, I would be interested in the comparing and contrasting of these studies. I would find them quite rich, you know, especially when you compare cultures. Anyway, on that note, you know, there's just so much more to be studied here. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And I just felt that I needed to bring that up, that there's always more to do here. Now, getting towards the end, ladies, fact is that companies employing women in large numbers outperform their competitors. Fact is that women now earn more college and graduate degrees than men do. Fact is that men doubt themselves too, yet they still take action. Another fact is that there's a catch-22 in all of this, because the consequences of an assertive woman, you know, women may suffer due to lack of confidence, yet when they are assertive, they may suffer as well. An assertive woman often is labeled as, she's often disliked, actually, and her character is called into question. And I don't really want to say the one word that sometimes circulates, you know, around the water cooler, at least here in America. Anyway, the thing is that there are consequences even for the assertive woman. Fact is that risk-taking, failure, and perseverance are essential foundations of confidence building. Fact is that confidence matters as much as competence. Fact is that confidence isn't only about feeling good, it's about doing and translating thoughts into action. Fact is that low confidence is inaction. Fact is that confidence is a belief that one is able to succeed. And fact is that confidence is a belief that stimulates action. Those are the facts, ladies. And it's important you remember that, because, you know, again, it's all about action. It starts with a belief, which gets us to think, which affects how our brain kind of wires stuff. And then we behave different, and our actions change. And boy, very powerful stuff. And I have to share this with you. I just have to. You know, here she is again. And this is an important one. It's one of my favorites. Ladies, you have to remember that well-behaved women rarely make history. And I think that's an important one to remember. Well-behaved women rarely make history, because look at the women who actually have made it, and not just have made it to the top. It's because it's not always about the top. It's about what some of the women who really left their mark on our society as a whole have accomplished. You know, what actions they have taken. It's very powerful. I mean, very powerful stuff. and that really gets me to the end, to the webinar here on confidence. You know, I really want to thank you for showing up, for being there and listening to me, and it's wonderful to see so many of you and see some of you again, some of the names that I recognize from earlier classes. That's great. As I told you before, I wish we would have had even a bit more time when we were together there, and I hope to see you again now. I have some chat comments already. So ladies, what I want to say is you know, we have, let's see, how are we with time? I know that it's morning time for you there, so we're a bit under an hour. So I'll take some, comments, you know, do make comments and select all attendees or all participants, or what's the other option? All something, all participants, there you go. And you can share your either a reaction or anything you want in the chat box, which is to the left side of your screen underneath participants, or you're welcome to use the little question mark, which is the Q&A box. That's fine too. And do note that if for any reason in lieu of time, I won't be able to, you know, reply to all of the questions or comments made, what I will do, let's see, how can we do this? I will get with my colleagues and get email addresses, and we'll figure it out. I will get replies or comments back to you via emails. I think that would be the easiest, but of course, an even easier way to go with all of this before I take some questions and read some of the comments in the chat box is, let me just go to the next slide real quick. I would love for you guys to engage with you know, with each other, with myself, with my colleagues on our LinkedIn page. We're just in the process of getting that up and populated. So I'm sure that you'll get some email information on that too, where exactly to go to. But I have already, I will post some related articles to our tonight's topic on women's confidence on that website. And it would be great for you to post your reaction, or to, you know, really it's a great way for us to find a great, basically to make a great connection and to share experiences which are just so plentiful and bountiful, I'm sure, and are so important in terms of, you know, supporting one another and growing and learning and creating new knowledge. So I really hope to see all of you actively on our Women's Leadership Program LinkedIn page here, you know, over the next weeks and beyond. That would be wonderful. So now let me go back to, I'm going to go through the chat first. If any of you would like the mic, you can click on the little hand and I'll be happy to pass the mic to you. And by the way, thank you everybody so much for keeping your mics muted, because it always makes it easier to hear the person who's talking at the other end. So I'm going to go to the chat box first. There are no hands up at the moment. Nope. So let's see. We have, let's see. I'm going to just read it out because I'm not certain if all of you can read the chat posts that were made. Someone posted that, you know, that I was aware of most of what was mentioned about the feats, the lack of confidence. Today I got my views more strengthened, which is wonderful. I'm glad. Yes, communication, enthusiasm, strategic thinking, taking control of self is crucial. Help each other in thinking, and hence the action also will change, inspired me a lot. I'm so glad. Empower self to be confident is a great message. Oh, I'm so glad that you like that. That's wonderful. Let's see. It's really true. Is it really true that well-behaved women do not create history? Can you explain more on that? Okay, let's see. Is it really well-behaved women do not create history? Oh, no, I think, I don't, no, I think you misunderstood me there. I think when I talked about, you know, well-behaved women, when I talked about the nurture and the upbringing, that was more in terms of, you know, tied to the imposter syndrome and in whole, how girls versus boys are, if you want to call it, nurtured or raised differently, how it is in schools, how it is in playgrounds. But then, yet again, I want to go back to the study that I mentioned that the Swiss researchers have done, that there may be a change occurring, actually, to where that notion is no longer such a big gap in terms of how boys and girls are raised or how things happen when you call it the natural playground. I don't think that well-behaved women, I certainly think that women have created history. So it has nothing to do with that they do not create history. I hope that clarified it. Simantini Dash, you posted that question. I hope that clarified it for you. So that's not what I meant at all. Let's see, I have another question. Can I know more about the imposter syndrome? Maybe through mail. Absolutely. Devika, yes, you can email me and we can, and I can post more on that, on the imposter syndrome. I'll make a note of that. Imposter syndrome. I'll post some more of that on the Women's Leadership Program LinkedIn page, because I'm sure that that is of interest to many of you. Let's see. Yes, thank you, Varsha. It's great you guys are here in the webinar as well, and you're absolutely correct. It's like you say, it's like revisiting our first module concepts when we did the Women's Leadership Program. You know, get motivated and feeling like re-energized. That's great. I'm glad you feel that way, because it's certainly tied together. Let's see, we have another chat comment. In our roles as trainers, facilitators, we are in a position to nurture women leaders, empower women to be achievers. Absolutely. You know, and the thing is, you don't even have to wait until you're in that role as a trainer or facilitator, because it's just also what I always say when I talk on leadership. You know, everyone is a leader. You don't have to be in a certain position or a role. You don't have. I tell you, I have met quite a few top business people who had the titles of CEOs, you know, or vice presidents, and I can tell you for a fact they were not leaders. The leaders were people, contemporaries on the front line. Those were the leaders. So absolutely, you know, you can take action. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can have an impact. That's the fact. You know, you can have an impact. Let's see. In one of the studies, it was stated that an age group of 14 to 30 was the sample study. Yes. In case we have more samples, rather age groups, we will get better understanding of how, with time, women as a whole is moving toward a positive. Where did it go? Toward a positive spectrum. Absolutely. Jayalakshmi, absolutely, you're correct. I think that the studies is what will essentially make the difference. But I also think it's important that the studies are done, not just, let's say, North America centric. I think it's important that the studies are done across the globe and that comparing and contrasting takes place. I mean, you start somewhere, you know, and you start where you're closest. So if you can get participants, I mean, I sit here in Alaska, so if I can get participants that are close to me, just to kind of see where the stakes are up here, I can certainly do that. But, you know, I'm always interested in doing comparing and contrasting across cultures, across countries, and you know, keen to hear on my to compare and contrast is absolutely crucial, because I think that will really give a strong picture of what's going on. Let's see, and then here's another comment. I'll go to the Q&A box in just a moment, ladies. I do not suffer from lack of self-confidence, but I feel there is something else that keeps me a step behind men. I'm a warrior princess who can conquer new lands, but I don't have my speedy horse yet. And a smiley face. But frankly, what's stopping me is a lack of vision. You know, I appreciate this honesty here, and I think that there are a lot of us, even in this webinar, who have a hard time maybe even trying to fathom the reason of why we are a step behind, you know, that we are confident indeed, and we know we are, and we know, yet still we're not there. And you know, like you pointed out, the lack of vision, that's a possibility. I mean, I appreciate your honesty, and I think that sometimes, you know, it takes that you know, to take that time out and to reflect. I tell you, I think that that's very powerful. I find myself, it's very powerful to actually, to take that time. Remember, I talked about earlier about that we are good at taking care of others and not of ourselves. So that's something we really, that would be a great thing perhaps to focus on for, let's say, this weekend. You know, take a couple of hours just for yourself and think about this and see what you come up with. Maybe reflect on it. Maybe keep a little journal or a notepad and just write a word that comes to mind. You know, create your own little mind map about that. And maybe make it a ritual and do it once a month, every 2 weeks, you know. And I like this other comment here. We carry a conscious awareness. I think it's important, that consciousness, you know, to bring that consciousness back. And that's why I think it's good to take care of yourself in terms of to take that time out and to think about these things, you know, think about, well, why is it the way it is? You know, am I not confident? Yes, I am. But, well, why is it the way it is? And how can I change it? You know, maybe some of the pointers help you. I'm hopeful they will. Yes, and you know, absolutely, we are concerned more about our family than our dreams. I tell you, Viveka, that I to completely relate to that, completely, because it's just that way. And at the same time, we can't forget that, you know, your dream is important too. Yeah, you know, it's what makes one tick sometimes, you know. Yes, and I tell you, more and more research is out there that shows that companies who employ more women perform better. It's really important that you remember that, and there's a lot of research out there. And I will, as I don't want to overwhelm the LinkedIn page just yet, to give time for us to really engage with on some of the topics that I will post on there. But there is so much more out there, absolutely. Let me go to the Q&A, ladies, just a moment. We could set up a LinkedIn group where all Q&As are answered too. If there is a bigger LinkedIn group, then oh, absolutely, Usha, we will do that. We will definitely all meet up again on via LinkedIn. That's what's so great, because no matter where we are or what time of day it is, we can always share. Yes, and we will share the Women's Leadership Group LinkedIn link with all of you. And I want to say it's going to be done via email or something, and I will check with my colleagues how that will happen, but that will definitely happen, so you know where to go. And there's a question that was asked, how does one overcome anxiousness? So if you think about it, how does one overcome anxiousness? So if you think about what we talked about, you know, we know that being nervous and being anxious is a feeder for a lack of confidence, right? So I want to say, okay, I want to say this. What are situations that make you anxious? When do you feel anxious? In what situation do you feel anxious? I mean, you don't have to answer this now here, you know, publicly or in any way. I mean, you don't have to answer that at all. I'm just giving you questions, again, for you to reflect on this. I'll give you a little coaching session, if you will, there. When do you feel that way? What situation are you in? And why do you think you feel that way? And if you look at some of the take control of your career confidence here, how do you think you could overcome that? You know, could you overcome it by perhaps changing your thinking, which will trigger something in your brain that will transform the way you, well, it will transform your thought process, and it will transform your action. It will transform your behavior. This is just an example. So you see, you can go back to the take control of your career confidence things, and once you get, you know, first you want to find out, well, why do you get anxious? What situations make you feel anxious? Why? And try to answer that for yourself, you know, because then you can ask yourself, well, what could I do to not feel that way? So I'm going to put the question back into your lap. I hope that helped. Anyway, let's see. We have some more. Hang on. Did I? Just a moment. Okay. There's a post here. To answer the question just asked on whether well-behaved women are not successful, women are expected to be always within boundaries, and if you need to be successful, you need to break barriers. That's a great answer. That's another great answer to look at that. Absolutely. You know, and you know what, ladies? I will take you right back to this. Well-behaved women rarely make history. I guess this is what was referred to earlier. That's correct. I'm so sorry. Here I am, misanalytic and overthinking. See, there you go. Absolutely. You have to act. I mean, you know, you. It's okay to be different. It's okay to step out. It's okay to ruffle feathers. It's okay to ask tough questions that may make others feel uncomfortable, that may make the meeting feel uncomfortable, that, you know, it's okay to step outside of your boundaries or even the group's boundaries or what have you. It's okay. You don't have to ask for permission. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't even have to wait to be asked. So that's what this meant. Well-behaved women really make history. Absolutely. Thank you for that comment, Simran. Absolutely. Now let's see if I have any questions up at all. Hands, I mean. No, I don't. Okay, let's see. I'll take one more chat note here, and then we'll bring it to an end. Is it possible to set up a webinar on how women can negotiate better? Oh, yes. Yes, I made a note of that, Usha, actually. How women can negotiate better. I will do that. How women can negotiate better. And what I'll do is I'll again work with my colleagues to set up a date. And we will do that as our next Women's Leadership Program webinar. Absolutely. And the thing is that what I will do on the LinkedIn website as well is create one topic in terms of, you know, webinar topics of interest, and then you can post there what interests there are. I mean, I have a list of stuff that I can always talk about. But it would be good to see, you know, what else people are interested in and what else all of you need, and then we can work on that, certainly. And maybe also at some point plan for something that's a bit more interactive, where some of you partake as well in the webinar. That would be great, actually. I would really like that, you know, for us to plan something like that. But I'm excited about the LinkedIn page. It will be a great way for us to continuously, you know, connect with each other outside of the classroom and even beyond. I mean, I'm hoping that some of the folks I want to, you know, give that information to, that there will be others who will join us as well. Okay, ladies, I want to say, let me just make sure I didn't have another question. No question, no comments, no hands. And what I will do is close the webinar at this time. I want to thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate it. Great comments, great questions. It was great to see some of you again. And I look forward, for those of you who haven't been through the program, I hope that we'll be able to welcome you soon. And I will adjourn our meeting for today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.